Hello, welcome back to another Social Science Simplified video. And today we're going to be taking our first look at the 2024 presidential electoral map. Now there have been some shifts in the number of electoral votes, but the video that follows is going to be my categorizing of what I believe each of the states are going to vote like in the 2024 election. And when I refer to leans, likely, and tilt states, I'm not predicting the margin. These are just my predictions for how the states are going to go, and those are based on how likely, and I guess also the margins. But so let's get started. Democrats and Republicans, and I'm going to be going off of the current state of the party. So the Democrats is Joe Biden's party, the Republicans is Donald Trump's party. So let's start by categorizing the safe states. California, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, Illinois, New York, Vermont, Maine's 1st Congressional District, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts, and D.C. for the Democrats. And for the Republicans, safe states would be Idaho, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska at large, Nebraska's 3rd Congressional District, as well as Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and West Virginia. So right now we have 74 safe electoral votes for the Republican Party and 180 safe electoral votes for the Democratic Party. So now there's actually a few I want to talk about. Minnesota is actually going to be categorized as safe for the Democratic Party. It hasn't voted for a Republican since 1972, or maybe it was 1976. Regardless, it is the longest voting Democratic state. It was the only state not to vote for Ronald Reagan in 1984, therefore I'm categorizing it as a safe Democratic state. And then also, it looks like the Democrats have a huge lead here, and they do. However, remember, all elections come down to battleground states, and it's just likely states. If, say, the Republicans flip the Democratic likely state of New Mexico or Colorado, that means the Democrats are just as likely to flip the state of Kansas, Missouri, or Montana. I mean, the likely states are in play for the other party, but not necessarily attainable. So I'm going to start off. I'm actually going to clear the likely states for now. So I'm going to start off with likely states for the Democrats. Likely states for the Democrats: Colorado and New Mexico, as well as New Hampshire and Maine at large. So not a lot of states there, actually. So now likely states for the Republicans. This is going to be a lot more. Alaska is certainly one. South Carolina is one. Virginia is a likely state for the Democratic Party. Used to be really in play for the Republicans. Not so much anymore. Joe Biden winning there, in Colorado and New Mexico by over 10 points in 2020. And you should check out my 2020 election video, where I talk about what the Democrats did well in 2020 is Colorado, New Mexico, Virginia. Winning in those 3 states by over 10 points was a huge victory for the Democratic Party. Just like how the Republicans winning Ohio and Iowa by 8 was a huge victory for them. However, I'll get into those states later. South Carolina is likely for the Republican Party, along with Montana, Kansas, Missouri, Utah. And Utah is generally a safe Republican state, but in 2016, Evan McMullin won a large portion of the vote there. So you never know if a third-party candidate were to come out of Utah. It is entirely possible that they could win that state. However, it is not necessarily likely. And then Nebraska's 1st Congressional District. So 34 likely electoral votes for the Democrats and 39 for the Republicans. So right now, 223 to 113. Now into the leans. Nevada, Michigan, and Pennsylvania are leans for the Democratic Party. And, Indiana is a likely Republican state. And then Iowa and Ohio are leans for the Republican Party. So 40 lean electoral votes for the Democrats, 23 for the Republicans. And this is where the map starts to favor the Republicans more than the Democrats, is because either party needs to win their own leans plus some of the other party's tilts in the case of the Republicans. And most of the tilt states are actually battleground states, not necessarily tilt one party or another. They're battleground states that tilt in the direction of the party that won the last election. That's how I'm categorizing them. So those are the leans. Iowa and Ohio. Trump won those by 8 points, but they're still in play for the Democrats. And now let's get in. I'm sorry, Texas is also a lean state for the Republicans. So now let's get into the tilt states. So out of the Rust Belt, the only tilt state for the Democrats out of the Rust Belt would be Wisconsin. Joe Biden only won there by about 20,000 votes, which was a very close margin. As well as Arizona, I believe Joe Biden ended up winning by about 12,000 votes. Same with Georgia. And then for the Republican Party, the tilts would be Florida, North Carolina, and Maine's 2nd Congressional District. And then Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District would be a tilt for the Democrats. So the Republicans need to focus on defending North Carolina and Florida. And if they can win those states and win back Arizona and Georgia and Wisconsin, that would put them over 270. However, if the Democrats win all their leans, all their likely states, and all their tilt states, they're already at the 270 threshold, and anything else beyond that is just extra if they were to flip Florida. And then if the Democrats, let's categorize all these states as their own party for the sake of predicting the outcome of the election here. And I'm not predicting the outcome of the election. I'm just trying to kind of share what my theories are. So let's say the Republicans flip Arizona back and Georgia back, which could be likely if they run, for example, a more moderate candidate than Donald Trump. For example, if they were to run Mitt Romney, they'd win a lot of those moderate suburban Republican voters back, possibly flip Arizona and Georgia. And where do they go from there? The Democrats are at 274. Well, Donald Trump had a strong appeal to rural voters, so they probably lose that 2nd Congressional District in Maine, but pick up Nebraska's 2nd Congressional District. So where do the Republicans go from there? Well, they risk losing Iowa to the Democrats because Joe Biden is highly approved of in Iowa. So that's 280 for the Democrats. So where do the Republicans find votes? Well, Nevada. They could flip Nevada. It's unlikely, but they could do it. Okay, we'll say the Democrats flip Florida. Then it's over. Unless the Republicans run the Rust Belt. But the Democrats just need to win one state in the Rust Belt if they win Florida. They could win Michigan, win Florida. If they win North Carolina, the Republicans would be in a very bad situation because then they could win Iowa, Michigan, and the Democrats would still be at 271. So the 2024 electoral map, in my opinion, does strongly favor the Democrats. However, if the Republicans swing just 60,000 voters, they could be eyeing the White House in 2024 again. So, long story short, my prediction for the 2024 electoral map is the exact same as the 2020 electoral map. Maybe Florida and Arizona flip back to the Republicans. Maybe Florida flips back to the Democrats. North Carolina flips to the Democrats. Ohio, Iowa. Maybe even Texas. Or maybe the Republicans win Nevada, win Texas, hold on to all their states, and flip the Rust Belt again and win 314 to 224. Maybe an extreme moderate Republican runs from Virginia and manages to flip Virginia back. But long story short, the Republicans have a lot more work to do in gaining ground in 2024 than the Democrats have to do in defending ground. Because the Democrats are the incumbent party. All they have to do is hold on to the Rust Belt, and they win. I'm sorry, I have to categorize Virginia and Nevada as Democratic states. All the Democrats have to do is hold on to the Rust Belt, and they win. Say they lose Wisconsin, all right, where do they find those extra votes? Arizona, 276. So long story short, all the Democrats need to do is win the Rust Belt or find another state to win. So this is my belief. I believe Georgia could flip back to the Republicans very easily. Other than that, I believe all the states pretty much stay the same in the 2024 election. So as always, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe the video. More uploads coming soon. Thank you, and have a great night.